Devon spent one day with me back here in studio and said,
I'm sick of this,
I can't
bozo.
do that again. Get me out of here. Devon has the day off. You are stuck with the Grumpy 2 here in studio. Welcome to PHLY Sixers show, brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics. We have obviously spent most of our time talking about the team that we cover. Funny how that works. Probably how we should focus our attention.
Still do a little bit of that today,
A little bit. But there has been a lot going on outside of the Sixers, and specifically for a draft that I feel like we have been invested in more than most. It's a great time to reconfirm our priors and ignore anything that goes against them.
Anything that makes us look bad, we ignore.
Yes.
Anything that makes us look smart, we highlight and make sure everyone knows about it.
That is how analysis works. So I guess, it's a little bit tough because a lot of these guys, Cooper Flagg, I think only played 2 games in
Dylan
Vegas.
Harper only played 2 games.
Tre played 2. Has Ace played yet? Ace has not.
Not in Vegas.
Not in Vegas. He played 2 in Utah.
He played the 2 in Utah. Yeah, I think honestly, some of the only guys who played a bunch of games are the upperclassmen.
Yeah.
Maybe guys who have more to prove, so to speak, or just lower draft picks, but for whatever reason, some of it has been due to injury. Yep. Some of it is just the usual.
People are super cautious.
Yeah, this guy looks good enough or looks as advertised. So, what are we doing? Throwing him out there against these guys playing football. And that was a thing, honestly. Like, I've joked about the playing football thing at Summer League, but it has been a thing that as I've talked to NBA teams, they've complained at least a little bit about. It's okay if they're going to let guys play, but if you let guys play, letting them play with 10 fouls at their disposal leads to this brand of ultra physical basketball where if you have a top 5, top 10 pick who's a big piece of your future and they have any sort of injury, you're looking at the way the game's being played out in Vegas and saying, you know what? I don't mind sitting this guy down and waiting to see what he looks like in, late September in training camp instead of going through this. So, is there, do we want to do more like draft order? Do you want to start with like, hey, here's a big surprise or just the guy that I was most enamored with? How do you want to handle this?
My head goes draft order, but that's
fine by me.
That's in part because we're more invested in top of the draft because we spent so much time talking about it outside of the top 2. But, I think probably starting off Cooper Flagg, he ended up averaging, what was it? I had the
25 and 2.5 with some pretty disgusting shooting splits.
Yeah, well, the first game like 5 for 21, something like that. He really struggled. I actually didn't think he played that poorly in that first game.
Yeah,
I thought for the most part he got to his spots. He is in a spot, and we've talked a lot about this with VJ, where you're sitting here going like, okay, a big part of Summer League is getting him outside of his comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And with VJ, he's going to get a lot more on-ball reps than he will when he's playing alongside Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, not to mention the 7'2" guy who we've spent most of this week talking about, who you hope is going to be running a lot of your offense through the nail, at least for 40 to 60 of those games. So he's not going to, this Summer League is going to be a role that you hope he grows into long-term down the line, but he may not play a whole ton of here in the first year. I think there's been a little bit of that with Cooper Flagg as well. Like, he has just been handed the ball and been like, all right, you go figure it out. Go create.
Jason Kidd has been very open about like, hey, we think he can play point guard, right? And that has been the approach that they've used out there.
So I think part of that, like those first game struggles, and it was great the second game. I think it was like 10 for 21 in that second game, 33 points, something along those lines. But like those opening game struggles, I'm not worried too much because I thought he got to his spots. I thought he created shots for others. Shots didn't go in, and then he followed up with a really incredible game too there. So I think he has looked very good, and obviously the defense is, I think, going to pop right away. Like, he's going to be the most, even though there's other players who have built their resume around defense, he might end up being the most impactful defender out of this rookie class from day one, just because he has such a unique blend of size and length and athleticism and give a darn. I'm trying to be respectful to the first hour. This is not overtime yet. He's just going to be really good on that end. So if the fact that he is sitting here figuring stuff out on the offensive end in real time, even though he had an epically bad Summer League performance to open it up that I think some people may have overreacted to, I think overall it's been a good summer for him.
Yeah, and this is a theme is probably going to emerge early here in that I don't super care about shooting in Summer League as a general rule. I think it's more about the thing that you started with, which is he did get to his spots in that first game, and there are a lot of shots that Cooper normally makes, right? You would have liked to see him hit more threes in particular in the 2 games he played at Summer League, but I think the 5 for 22 or whatever that was in the first game is more about he was working from the mid-range, and a lot of it is just not going down. I will say that's the first time I finally actually got to see him play in person was out there in Vegas. Like, watched a ton of him obviously throughout the year, and
he's massive.
Then in like international stuff, like big dude, super big wingspan for a guy who moves like he does. And I think the stuff that we saw at the amateur level with the level of competitiveness and willingness to get back and all that, I think that's already showing up. Like, he made some plays in transition defense that were super impressive. The weak side rim protection is there, even if he's not blocking shots. So very much as advertised. I wish we would have gotten to see more than 2 games of him. I hate that we are in this place where not just Flagg, but with Harper, Ace doesn't play all of Las Vegas, although, that seems like he's got some kind of, it's like a hip flexor, something along those lines. But all these guys being treated very carefully. And I wish we could have gotten more of a glimpse of, because this is the first time that not everybody who's a big NBA and big basketball fan is watching college basketball, right? This is your introduction to these guys. And so selfishly, I would have loved to see more of him in this environment, taking a step up, especially as, the youngest guy who's out there in Las Vegas. But everything seems on track with what we were expecting coming in.
Yeah. No, and it really is, like, 2 things stood out in person, because you brought up that's the first time we had seen him in person. He's massive. And obviously they're all massive, like 6'8", 6'9" is not unique, but his wingspan, everything about him is, and he looks like he has a body type he's going to put on a little bit of weight over the years too. He's just a very physically impressive guy.
Seeing the facial hair in person too was like, oh God, this kid is a kid, right? Like the little chin duster. You can't even call it a goatee because it's not a completed. I'm not making fun of him. I was clean shaven for a long portion of my life. So just seeing that baby face was like, the realization comes across you. Like,
he's 18.
He's definitely a true 18-year-old.
Yeah, which, who knows? He could end up growing a little bit as well. But he's just a very, like, the combination of that size and the mobility is going to be so much fun to watch down the line. Anything else stand out? Any play, or do you want to move on to Dylan a little bit?
No, and again, I think the stuff that jumped out the most was the defensive stuff. But we were in the building, I think it was the Saturday game where the Sixers played Charlotte, and we were doing all the media avail. Right. But during all that, I believe is when he really threw one down on our end as we were waiting to talk to people. And that was oh yeah, I remember that guy. I saw him play quite a bit at Duke. So I'm really curious to see just how much they lean into Cooper Flagg, lead ball handler, right? Yeah. Because the one thing, the vision for the team once Kyrie is back, which is probably next year or at best end of the season, you can see how then Cooper slides up and plays more of that point forward and less of just ball in his hands all the time. But without Kyrie, do you just say, just let this guy cook?
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
It will be interesting. All right, Dylan Harper, also 2 games played, 16 points. Only shot 35.7% from the field, and I think 15 or 12.5%.
12.5% from 3.
Yeah. It was a struggle from deep. I think when he looked comfortable the most is in transition. Yeah. Like, he did a real good job pushing the ball in transition, was able to get some easy buckets. In the half court, I think it was a little bit tougher for him. Obviously the jumper is going to be a work in progress. And I think everyone believed that, especially in Summer League, because as we noted pre-draft, he is a much more confident catch and shoot shooter right now. In Summer League, you're not playing with very many other creators. Not that he played with a ton of them there at Rutgers either, but you're not playing with a ton of creators in Summer League. So that pull-up shot, you're probably going to be a little more dependent on. Then you add in the fact that it's a couple feet farther back. Obviously, there's a ramp up in competition. Not ramp up. I'm so used to saying ramp up. I'm not putting it in place.
Your brain is poisoned. You will never escape the ramp.
Stronger competition that he's playing against, even if it is Summer League, a lot more disjointed. So him being a weak pull-up shooter probably highlighted a little bit here, but would have loved to have seen the ball go in the basket a tiny bit more.
It is... on the one hand, you say, okay, you're thankful that he's going to go to a team where they have other ball handlers and guys who can put it on the deck and set him up, right? Because his usage was astronomical.
Yeah.
I think he had like a 39 or 40% usage, which for anybody who's not familiar with generally like where the bar is, 30% usage is super high. I think like peak James Harden might have been around 35, if I remember correctly. And that's like outlier level
Peak
of
Joel
ball
is
dominance.
like 35.
Yeah, it's the guys who are like super, super ball dominant are around there. And Harper was at like 39 or 40% of every possession was like being played through him, right? So I think the big thing right now is exactly what we talked about during the pre-draft. Our team's going to be able to get away with sagging under on him. Honestly, the thing that I was like, oh, that's kind of weird, was he had a negative assist turnover. Now, granted, that's in 2 games, and so you don't overreact to that. But that was one of his big strengths in college, not just in general, but when he faced ball pressure. And so he had more problems with that in the 2 games that we saw of him. You never overreact to 2 games for any reason.
Yeah.
But I think that was something that was like, all right, well, maybe that's an early sign of if the shooting doesn't come and if teams can load up more on him in the paint, that some more turnovers will come than happen at Rutgers. I think the good news, other than having the other creators around him, is that
a freaking alien.
I was going to say
too.
Wemby is such a human matchup advantage that you can play 5 out at basically all times. And so if teams are going to go under on you and try to duck into the paint, that's great. The 7-foot whatever guy is going to hang out there and just bomb threes away on you and hit them at a pretty respectable clip. So helps a lot that you're playing with one of the most unique talents in the league. Do you want to, while we're here, Carter Bryant is on that same Spurs Summer League team, and he's played a lot more than Harper. I was fairly high on him coming in, especially for a Sixers fit that we talked about. That was a guy that we saw out there, and I was like blown away at his athleticism and his size. We talked about it a little bit, Derik, but seeing someone who has that height, that wingspan, frankly, like the build too, like he's already pretty muscular for his age, but having all that and having the ability to slide side to side, get over and around screens, play in recovery, play in chase, like I don't know what he's going to give you offensively, but that kid on the defensive end looks like an absolute destroyer.
To that point, he averaged 7 points per game in 4 games at Summer League, shot 27.3% from the field, 27.8% from 3-point range, had a negative assist turnover ratio almost by a 2-to-1 margin, 1.5 assists and 3 turnovers, so exactly a 2-to-1 margin. And we have been almost glowing about him. Because it's just like that defense. Because I think a lot of people looked at him and said, all right, he's obviously going to be a contributor on defense, but is he going to be elite? Does he have the physical tools? Is he going to be able to slide his feet enough to defend the number of archetypes that he's going to need to if he's going to overcome his offensive shortcomings, or at least overcome them enough to be a lottery pick, a potential top 10 pick? And I think what you saw in Summer League is, he can. Now, some of that is, he's going against other people his age, which you give him credit for, but he's obviously more physically developed than a lot of people there. He's able to body them a little bit. Like you mentioned, there's a little bit of football going on there. A lot of contact.
That certainly played to his strengths. That you could play physically and get up into guys.
That being said, in an environment where like defense isn't necessarily something you focus on all that much, he, I thought, showed out in that regard in a huge way. And look, the shooting was bad. He took a lot of them. He took almost 5 threes per game. We mentioned a lot when you're talking about early on. The willingness to take it is almost as important as the ability to make it, especially when you're jumping not only in the level of competition, but also jumping in like that 3-point line. That extra 3 feet will scare some people off from attempting them, especially if you're a youngster making that move and playing in your first Summer League. I thought he looked confident enough taking that shot.
He's going to get a lot of them because they will, if teams don't think he can shoot, they're going to say, we're going to load up on Wemby. We're going to load up to stop Harper in the paint. And so then it becomes, hey, Carter Bryant, can you make 40%? Well, not 40% is a high bar to clear. Can you make 38% of your threes and keep teams honest? Because if you can, boy, that defensive combination with Victor Wembanyama is outrageous. So, I mean, look, the Sixers fans who are here, you guys got to see him for the one game they played, and he had some sequences in that game where it's like he's playing out the half court, he gets bumped by a screen, he's in chase, and then he still makes a incredible highlight reel block at the rim. There are plays where guys are basically having trouble just getting the ball inbounds or crossing half court. He's going to have to probably earn his stripes, so to speak, to get that whistle from officials against like star players, right? So I think that's where we'll see how physical he's actually allowed to play when because look, everybody knows the league will always deny it, but the rookies always have to clear a certain bar to be able to play a certain way. But I do think he has all the ingredients to be like an all NBA level defender. And you put that next to a guy who's going to be a perennial defensive player of the year candidate. You got something brewing down there.
Yeah, no, I think he looked in the role that you were hoping he would play. I think he looked like the defense looked legit.
Oh, wow. By the way, we have some breaking draft class news.
Okay, go for it.
Derik Queen underwent surgery to repair a torn ligament in his left wrist. Will be reevaluated in 12 weeks. 12. Yikes, man. Yikes. Well, we'll talk about Derik Queen in a little bit, but that's
like right
that's
up
a
to
bummer.
Training camp. Like that's like right before training camp.
So, and wrist shouldn't stop him from doing some of the other stuff, like the conditioning work, because I know that was a big part of our conversation with him in the pre-draft process. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to, that just came across. So wanted to throw that out there as it was happening.
Yeah. Look, I think Bryant's going to be good in his role. I did question a little bit whether or not, because like it started off where, hey, he might be a great fit in like a 13 to 15 pick range, maybe fall a little bit. And then it started to be like, well, he could end up being like a top 8 pick. I think I questioned the offense a little bit in that regard, and I still do question the offense a little bit. Like I think the shot is something, and even going back to Harper, because Harper is someone who, I have a little more question with Harper just because he struggled so much off the dribble. Whereas with Bryant, his role is like you're not expecting him to ever make those pull-up jumpers. So his struggles are, well, can he replicate what he did in college off the catch? And I think that's just an easier projection to make fundamentally. But shooting in summer league definitely is one of those where look at Jared McCain last year. He shot like 22% from 3-point range. Yeah. It's just something where it is an adjustment, especially for someone who, is on ball like Jared was last year at times, like even VJ was this year, like Dylan Harper is. Off ball, it's just such an easier jump to make that I think Carter will make enough shots to be on the court and get that defense on the court. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah. And I think to your point, like the whole thing with him is just the willingness, because frankly, coming out of school, the whole thing was, well, he's sort of an idea player, right? He's somebody that came off of the bench, was not really a focal point of that team at any point this year, but certainly not in the early stages of the year. And you bring him to this situation where he's not going to be asked to be a focal point either, but you still need to find the willingness, the aggressiveness situationally, right? It's the Tobias Harris thing. Not saying they're similar players, but if Tobias Harris gets 8 opportunities on open threes playing off of Maxey and Embiid and whoever else, you need him to take 8 threes, right? So if Carter Bryant gets 6 shot opportunities on open threes playing in San Antonio, I feel a little more confident that he's going to take those. Whether he makes them, that's another story.
Sounds good. All right, I think probably time to talk to get a quick word about some of our friends here, and then we'll talk about some more.
That sounds good to me.
Draft prospects.
Guys, some people need to fix their jump shots. Some people need to fix their attitudes. Maybe you just have something at your house that you'd like to fix. Ace Hardware Home Services has the person for that, because they're not just the helpful hardware folks. They're the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing and electrical to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long at Ace Hardware Home Services, where they bring helpful to your home, the helpful you love from the store, now to your front door, from Philly to the Jersey Shore. As we always like to tell you, they're local people. They're people who live in your communities, who want to make their neighbors and your home as great as it can be. And if you are a homeowner, especially if you're a new homeowner, you haven't gone through the process yet, you've been renting from some guy in South Philly or North Philly, West Philly, wherever it might be, and you just get to call somebody and say, hey, can you come deal with this? You don't always have that luxury. In fact, you rarely have that luxury as a homeowner, but Ace Hardware Home Services gives you the attentiveness, the pricing, and all the tools you need to make sure you're up and running all the time. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
All right, so I walked into my garage yesterday and it felt like a sauna.
I got to tell you, Devon, this Philadelphia heat, especially coming off a cool period, no joke.
All right, so here's what I did. I got like 10 bags of ice and I made myself an ice bath to stay cool instead of turning on the AC.
But why wouldn't you just turn on your air conditioning?
Well,
Devon?
I was trying to be energy efficient. Go green, go birds, right? And a little power dribble. Make sure I stay away from it.
Yeah, but, instead of icing yourself out, you could just check out Pico's energy saving rebates. They've got deals on Energy Star cooling equipment that actually work and they cut down your bills.
Hold on. So no more ice?
Unless it's an ice cold beer, Devon, we don't need to talk about ice.
That makes a lot of sense.
So everybody just head to pico.com/ways to save. They've got tips for everything. Heating, cooling, lighting, you name it. Don't resort to ice like my friend Devon over here. Look at that. Devon stopped through. He loves our friends at Pico so much.
You never
He wanted
truly,
to make sure he
you never
was here.
truly get a day off when there is a Pico ad read scheduled to play. Thank you, Devon, for stopping by. And welcome back to the PHLY Sixers show, which does not currently include Devon. He has other stuff to get to. But again, just a heck of a commitment from our buddy.
Just gotta love Devon, Mr. Professional. All right, so now we're up to the Sixers' place in the draft order, and our friend VJ Edgecombe. Derik, where do you want to start with him? Do you want to start with the good, the bad, or maybe just not even the binary like that, where he has broken from the scouting report in college and where he has, I guess, lived up to expectations?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but really what jumped out to me was that he was able to get to his spots, especially going right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do think fundamentally NBA spacing is going to help him quite a bit. I would love to see that left hand get a little bit more developed, but even with that, he had some flashes. It was usually going left to come back right, not necessarily get all the way to the rim, but I thought he was more willing to use it, or at least didn't slow him down, maybe as much as it did at other spots at Baylor. And then the other one just being the willingness to use that pull-up jumper, not necessarily from deep. Like, he's got to work to extend
a lot of
that
the mid-range
3-point
stuff,
range. But using it as a counter to maybe some of the defenses that are going to be thrown his way, I thought he was more willing than I was expecting him to be. And quite frankly, he even converted a bunch of them. Like, I think that first game he shot like 5 for 10 on those pull-up jumpers. I think that's just a great sign. And we can sit here, certainly, like, what did he make, like 2 threes? Over the course of 2 games?
Did he hit 2 in the first? He either hit 2 or 3. I don't remember.
Regardless, he didn't make a lot of threes.
Not enough. Put it that way.
Not at a great percentage. But I do like it's that didn't stun me. And again, in part because it's like a lot of times these players who are going to be playing more off ball are playing more of an on ball role. We obviously know VJ is a better catch and shoot player and a more comfortable catch and shoot player than he is pulling up off the dribble, especially from 3-point range. I wasn't expecting him to come out and bomb a bunch of threes off of dribbling off of pick and rolls. It just wasn't his game at Baylor. I didn't expect it to be his game now. But if he's just using those screens to get to his spots, more comfortable with his handle and more comfortable with that pull up, I think that's a successful summer league stint for me.
Yeah. I said it the other day. The shot stuff doesn't matter in this setting as much, where you're asking him to run the point and be the guy, and like it's going to be a lot of on-ball stuff. It is going to matter a hell of a lot more the second that he's playing with Maxey and McCain. And so anybody who's like hyper-focused on the shooting stuff, I totally understand, because some of the stuff we're seeing, him being a point guard and running the offense and running pick and rolls, like that stuff that in the short term is a luxury. It's not something they're going to ask him to do a ton, at least unless I'm getting this totally wrong, right? Unless they come in first day of training camp and it's like VJ is going to be the point guard of the team and they're moving Maxey to more of a off-ball combo role. I don't see that. And so his inability to make shots on the catch and shoot stuff, the off-ball movement, like that is a concern going into the start of the season. And I think if he gets squeezed out for minutes early on, I would say that that's probably the most likely reason, because everywhere else, right, you see encouraging stuff. You see the The defensive work rate is there. The defensive playmaking has been there. He's rebounded the ball pretty well. Again, only in 2 games, so it's hard to read that, but tracks the ball well, attacks the ball well. Playmaking is good. But the shooting just needs to be better. Like there is no way around that. And that's especially on a full strength roster where if you play through Joel Embiid, and they will when he's healthy, going to be a lot of possessions in rotation, a lot of possessions where he's doubled, ball swinging around. You need to make a quick decision, rise up and hit a shot. I still am a believer in the long-term shot, but so short-term, it's an issue. I would say I totally agree with you on he has differentiated from the scouting report with some of the mid-range and frankly, some of the ball handling, like the in and out move that you brought up the other day was a really nice move that we didn't see a lot like that at Baylor. In the other part of the negatives that we did see this a lot at Baylor and continues to be a concern for me is the pickup points and the gathers, right? Already seen 3, 4, 5 times where he has space. He's got an extra dribble he can take where he'll get all the way to the rim and he'll be able to, like, I feel confident he can get there and get his hand on the glass and make a layup or a dunk. And he's just picking it up too far out. And so that's increasing the degree of difficulty on those shots, including the one, that really nice scoop layup in Utah. That's one I want to see another dribble from him. And
it's
that's
great that he had the body control and the touch to make it. It shouldn't have been that difficult.
Yeah.
100%.
So you want him to, but I put that under the fixable category, right? I think that's something that if you're Rico Hines, if you're Nick Nurse, if you're player development people.
You show him the film.
You show the
Beat
film. If it's Olin, his trainer, the guard whisperer, like those are, people can show you that. And I think that's something that, especially an athlete like him, they all tend to do this when they're younger.
Yeah.
It's going to take time though. So you're going to, at least in year 1 for sure, there are going to be possessions where it's like, VJ, can you just give me one more dribble? Can you just get a little bit closer to the basket? So that's less concerning to me than the shooting stuff in the short term. But like by and large, very pleased with everything I've seen. I think the most important thing is it's one thing to be a great athlete. He actually leverages it. Right. There are a lot of guys who have great athletic tools who don't leverage it. He's done a great job of that so far.
No, look, I think the shooting is, I'm probably a little bit more confident on it long term than some. I think short term, it could be a real problem. Like this could absolutely be a sub 30% 3-point shooting season. It would not surprise me at all. In fact, if you had to give me an over under on 30, I'd probably take the under. Part of that is that, I think he's going to try to take those off dribble threes as the season goes on, which I think is good. Like, I don't think
I want him to take those.
I don't want him going
100%.
out here being like, I need to be a 35% 3-point shooter. I want him trying to push his limits. And that is going to be, I think, a struggle at times. I do think, to your point on the pickup points on the layups, I think he can improve on that. I don't really worry about that too much. I think he will get there, especially if the ball handling ends up popping a little more in the NBA and with the team spacing. I also thought, frankly, he was just a little bit more comfortable as a passer. Like, I thought, for the most part,
100%.
he made pretty good reads when he did get into the paint. I am confident in that aspect of his game. He's one of those players where, his shot creation is going to be determined by how much of a scorer he is and how much people are worried about him when he's coming off of that pick and roll and how many opportunities that creates. But I think when those opportunities are there, I thought he did a pretty good job of converting them in the limited time that we saw.
Turnovers are low. Assists are relative. I won't say high. It's like 4 assists a game he's at, and he had 4 in both games. But if he's a 4 assist, 2 turnover guy, and he's doing all the other stuff, like that's a great outcome. And I've said many times, I do think that the playmaking aspect has been underrated for him. So by and large, very happy with what I've seen from him. I wish that it had come with like 3 more made threes or even like a couple more made threes and you're closer to, high 30s, low 40s, but it's 2 games. We'll see where he ends up. I do think just broadly, even after he clears the initial threshold of shooting, I think he's just going to be a streaky shooter. I don't think he's going to be he is not going to be a, JJ Redick. Like he's going to hit the back of the baseball card every night. There are going to be weeks where it's like, he's 0 for 5 and he's 1 for 6. And then there will be games where he's 6 for 8 and he's 4 for 7 or whatever it is. Like, you're going to have to live with that.
I will definitely take the under on JJ Redick. I agree with that.
I was just saying, like, as in terms of the consistency, right? It's not.
Sure.
It would be more in the if he becomes a good shooter, I think it'll be more the Robert Covington, right? Where it drove people crazy. Robert Covington would go through periods where it's like, this guy's never shot a basketball before, and then for a month he's just like out of his mind. I think it'll be more like that if he gets there.
Yeah. Yeah, and
which it still is an if. I feel good about it, but I am not taking it for granted whatsoever.
All right, the other guy that maybe not the chat was debating at 3, but the other guy that you and I were debating at 3.
Oh, the con heads are loving this.
That's true. Tre Johnson, thoughts on his place?
Okay, Tre Johnson. Tre looked awesome. Now, Tre looked like a guy who is only focused on scoring, right? There was a little bit of our talk pre-draft where it was like, get him out of the environment that he's in at Texas, put him in, a pro-style offense with real teammates, and the playmaking will flash more. I don't think we saw that in the brief time we saw him out in Vegas. But what you did see, and what I thought we said over and over again in that pre-draft process, is if you want a guy who is a big-time shooter and a big-time shot maker, this is the guy, not the player that we'll get to a little bit later. I think Tre showed just everything you would have hoped for as a pull-up shooter, frankly, he didn't even need to be on ball most of the time, right? He was getting into spots on either wing and just taking those quick release, catch and shoot threes. He had, to me, my single favorite play in all of Summer League so far, where he's in transition and picks the ball up, looking to shoot. Malawach is there, and he has the improv talent and mind to say, screw it, I'm throwing it off this guy, and then going in with the ball for a layup. Like
we were at an establishment, we'll say, a beverage establishment.
We were having some drinks.
And we were hooting and hollering at that one. Kyle's like, I got to get into Discord and talk about this one.
It's funny that, like, I think there are some people who think we're just like, it's all the numbers and whatever, because we have at least some care about stats.
It is funny how, like, everybody references stats, right? They'll be like, hey, he averages this many points and this many assists and shoots this percentage. Yeah. But if you try to get better stats, then all of a sudden you don't care about the game and don't watch basketball. It's like, that's not how that works.
Derik and I ended up with Tre at 3 in part because it was like, damn, this guy rocks. Like doing that. Like, so here's the thing, right? So the defensive stats often are used as like, this is a guy, this shows instinct that will eventually translate to offense, right? Guys who are high steals, high blocks. That means on the other end,
none of those.
Tre didn't do that stuff, but he has like his ability to shoot and play out of these tiny windows, right? The one dribble, side to side, pull up 3, just all those little things that we saw in college. And then you see that play that he made on Malawach, and it's like, that's what I was seeing, right? Just somebody who is thinking the game on offense so quickly and can execute that quickly that looked like just a natural, look at this. Like the fact that you're thinking to do that in a transition pull-up situation is incredible. Like that's awesome stuff. So
hat tip to Bree, of course.
Yeah, thank you to Bree for pulling the clip up on that one. But so like his numbers were great. I think he averaged almost 20 points a game, shot like 58% from the field, 45% from 3. Shot really poorly at the free throw line, which is weird, but didn't get there a lot. But if you were looking for one of the few guys in this class who I think has like 25, 30 point a game at the highest end upside, he was staring you right in the face. And I think you saw everything that you wanted to see if you were a Tre Johnson backer.
And you just continue to show that kind of diversity in the shot too. Like on ball, off ball, coming off of a screen, coming off of a DHO, creating it himself, getting to the mid-range for those floaters and whatnot. He showed a lot of skill level in that regard. Would you love to see a little more attention to detail on the passing? Yeah, or not even really attention to detail.
Just try to pass.
Sure, and at the rim, like if it's not in transition, the half court is obviously a huge concern. That might limit his overall upside a little bit. But in terms of being the player that he was and showing that against NBA level athletes, maybe not NBA level structure, but NBA level athletes, I thought that was a wild success for him. Yeah. And I understand any like some skepticism. You would have loved to have seen him be a little bit more of a point guard. That really is a one thing, even probably more than the at rim stuff. Like, he has got to be able to create for others in order to become the impact player that you would have wanted with that third pick. You would have loved to have seen more. I think this is one where, Summer League is maybe not the environment for people to show off their playmaking chops.
That's also true, because there are a bunch of guys we've already talked about, right? Like Dylan Harper's assist numbers are much lower than they probably should have been. And Colin Murray-Boyles is another one. We'll get to him. Like, your playmaking numbers are definitely suppressed in this environment.
But it's not just the playmaking numbers. Like, he didn't look like he was attempting to playmake all that much. But
that's our guy, so we don't care. Who cares? Don't care. He did some cool stuff and put up great numbers. That's all that matters.
Wildly fun to watch. Do you want to touch on Ace at all? Because he didn't play in Vegas. We did talk about him a little bit.
I figured we'd get to him later just because he was, I guess he was. We skipped Kon, so I thought we were going in draft order, and then we I
was kind of going in debate among the pod order, but you're right. That's probably, and in all honesty, I thought we'd probably talk about Kon a little longer than a couple minutes we had before our next.
Yeah, well, then why don't we just, we'll hit a break real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll dig into Kon and Ace and my number one boy, as they say on Succession, Colin Murray-Boyles. We'll do a bunch of them.
Sounds good. And guys, this next partner is somebody that I thought about a lot in Vegas and during my trip into Arizona. Mando is a men's deodorant brand that's hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. Their scents are geared towards men with options like bourbon leather, Cloverwoods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. Mando is a whole body deodorant, safe to use anywhere on your body, from your armpits, your balls, your thigh folds, belly buttons, butt cracks, and even your feet. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, Mando is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Again, I actually ended up getting a shower because I was hiking all day in Arizona. Ended up getting a hotel just to get a shower. All of that could have been avoided if you had just remembered to bring Mando. All products are baking soda free and paraben free. You can choose from a variety of scents like bourbon leather, Cloverwoods, Mount Fuji, or Pro Sport. Clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. If you want to try America's number one whole body deodorant formula right now, you can find them in Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. For the best deals, go to shopmando.com. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products.
Bree flashing my picture on the screen when Mando popped up. What are you trying to say over there, Bree? Jeez.
2 free
Better
products.
take a second shower today.
Let's start that over. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 20% off site ride with our exclusive code. Use code PHLY at shopmando.com. Again, that's shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
Anytime I can throw Derik off with an ad read, I'll do it.
And it was right at the end, too. It was right at the part they actually care about.
Whether your favorite team wins or not, gang, whether you're smelling good on the set or not, in my case, I guess, there's always another way to win on the BetParx online casino app. Check out the brand new casino games like Huff and More Puff, Fireblaze Sky Queen, a BetParx exclusive. It's the only app to use to play all your favorite casino games right in the palm of your hand. You can also play blackjack, roulette, craps, poker, baccarat, plus hot online slots like Cash Eruption, 88 Fortunes, and Cleopatra Online. New users get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Go to betparx.com, download the app right now, and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParx. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. BetParx. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Somehow almost messed up the easiest part is just reading numbers and gambler. There it goes.
You didn't even have anybody distracting you, too.
Ad reads going crazy today.
Welcome back to the PHLY.
Thank you to our friends at BetParx and Mando.
All right. Kon Knueppel. Where did you end up having him? I forget. 5th, right?
5th. Yeah, I believe 5th.
Yeah.
And boy, that first game was a disaster.
Yeah.
What was he, 1 for 8 and just clearly was a little bit overwhelmed to start. Now, some of it was he just shot super poorly. Last 2 games looked every bit like the guy he was at Duke. Now, you don't overreact to the good games either, because yesterday against that Spurs team, the Spurs at a certain point just like completely laid down. They're deep in their summer league run. But
well, that's another thing with like the late games at summer league. Like a lot of times the headliners are nowhere near the court.
Yeah. But he looked really good the last 2 games. I think you saw the passing start to come to the forefront a lot more. All of it is a little bit interconnected, right? He does not have the top tier athleticism, but so when the shots go down, the lanes open up. When the lanes open up, he has the ability to, hit these passes all over the floor. I had the Hornets Spurs game on yesterday and hit this really nice skip pass at the corner for corner 3. He also had, we talked so much about those lobs he threw to Malawach at Duke.
It's not just Malawach.
There was one to Kalkbrenner yesterday where I was like, oh my God, it's deja vu all over again, except now it's this goofy looking white guy instead of Malawach. So a lot of the Kon Knueppel stuff that you really enjoyed started to shine through the last 2 games. The 2-footed play inside the arc as well. He had a really nice baseline fadeaway at the end of a shot clock on one possession. And look, he's a guy who's going to shoot, pass, and you pray for everything else, right? Like that's his thing. And I think he's a smart enough and a physical enough player that he's going to have a long and successful NBA career. But you were given some evidence that there will be times when it gets real tough for him. So I think by and large did enough to say, all right, I feel pretty good about what we talked about coming into the process. But you weren't going to come in 2-3 games and dispel the whole idea of like, hey, this guy's a bad athlete and it might unravel everything.
Yeah. No, I thought in terms of pre-draft expectations, I thought his passing was even better than maybe we would have expected. And I think we were all pretty bullish on his passing, and that the fact that, you went back to the conference tournaments and when he had a bigger role because Cooper was out and it looked really good. So I think we all acknowledge that he was a pretty good passer and probably better than the numbers indicated. But I thought here in Summer League, he was even better. And, whether that is, I thought he did a real good job of, using his shot to get into the lane. Like he got a lot of people off balance, was able to use that. Those closeouts to get into his spots and to find either dump off passes, kickouts, or that lob that you mentioned. I thought he looked pretty good. And like you mentioned, the first game was a struggle. But it frequently is, especially when you're either adjusting to one of 2 things, either the length of the 3-point line, which he wasn't. He's comfortable from there. Or just the size and speed of the players. I thought once he got comfortable, like he looked real good.
Yeah.
And he had one, I think it was to Kalkbrenner as well, where he used, came off of a screen or a DHO, used his shot fake to get the guy in the air, and then found Kalkbrenner rolling to the rim. He just showed more creativity than I think maybe he had a chance to show last year. And I think he is going to be, look, the defense is a very, very, very real concern. But offensively, I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be really good pretty quickly, too.
And I think he's so additive where LaMelo, for whatever his warts are, is a really creative passer. Like he can make every pass in the book, but they really haven't had supplementary playmaking around him. And so you have LaMelo as the lead guard. You give him more space by putting Kon on the floor. And even if he's just a spot up guy, that helps him. But then it's like, hey, defense is focused on LaMelo. Defense is focused on Brandon Miller. And Kon gets to play out of these situations where it's more scramble mode from the defense. And that's where his passing is going to get these guys a bunch of easy buckets and easy looks. And even if it's not, if they overcommit, I think he's shown like I can take advantage as a scorer. I can do the inside the arc stuff. Certainly if you sag off of him, I'd like whatever that first game was, he's going to shoot. He will make a ton of threes in the league. So I think it made perfect sense for them at the time. And I think it looks even better the more we see of him out in Vegas.
I think he's going to be so much fun to watch. He's definitely going to be one of those where like I'm not sure what his ultimate upside is and what his ultimate impact will be, but just the way he plays the game. It's not only just a shooting that helps with spacing. It's the quick decision making. It's do defenses feel like they can recover out to you? And he's so good at both that I think he's going to have a tremendous impact as a supplementary, kind of secondary player. I mean, that's why we both had him in our top 5 ahead of the next person on our list.
Do you want me to start or do you want to start on?
We'll let you start.
So I would say this, and in perfect Ace Bailey fashion, he gave the equal amount of ammunition to the skeptics and the people who are believers in him, because that first game is a perfect snapshot of everything that is wrong with him as trying to be a building block player. The second game is the vision for this is a guy who can make an impact every single night, and you don't even have to give him the ball that often, right? The second game in Utah is when I saw flashes of that at Rutgers, I love that stuff, right? It's a lot of just quick release threes, offensive rebounding, quick decisions around the basket.
Yeah,
they're not clearing the ball. They're not clearing the floor and saying, go ISO against somebody. It is 1-2 dribbles or even less.
Yeah, the no dip three that was
that
really nice
no dip three was super impressive. And like we talked about it all through the process. Zero doubts about him as a catch and shoot guy, right? Like the catch and shoot numbers were very good. And Derik and I are both huge believers in him as like, throw out the weird free throw stuff from the year, throw out some of the percentages that dragged him down to, 34.6 or I used to have like all these guys' stats memorized at some point. 34
right around
point something
35%,
as a college shooter, but his level is clearly much higher than that. Unfortunately, the first game is the other side of it, right? And I'll give him this. He deserves some grace because Isaiah Collier and some of these other guys on the Jazz were very interested in themselves and not necessarily playing great offense. And so there were periods of the game where he got a little bit frozen out. His problem responding to that was the second the ball touches my hands, I need to shoot it. It doesn't matter what type of horrible shot is happening. And so he ends up he was like 3 for 13 in that game.
Points,
and he sat for most of crunch time. And I think the bigger concern remains, I just don't see the ability to get to the rim. Anytime that he tried to drive was like, he either got stopped by the time he got to the free throw line, or if he got deeper, he's not strong enough or tight enough with the handle to get a good shot up. So that remains a big concern, but very much like a yin and yang type of night, right? I don't want to say the role player performance because he had a really good game in the second game. Very good game doing all the stuff that I think he's good at. There's just some stuff that he's not quite good at yet.
Yeah. No, and this has always been my disconnect with a lot of people who believe in Ace. Like I fundamentally, when I don't like watching Ace Bailey play, it's when he's trying to create. And typically you would then specify whether it's create for himself, create for teammates. Well, he doesn't try to create for teammates, so it's specifically exclusively.
Although he did pass a little bit more than he did at Rutgers in that second game. So I'll give him that as well.
But when he's an off-ball player and really just a quick, decisive off-ball player, movement shooter, catch and shoot shooter, any of that, running in transition, even on the offensive glass, he has moments where I really like that as well. Then I like a lot. I think he can excel in that role. Now it's hard to be a an off-ball player if fundamentally you worry about his decision making, and I still fundamentally worry about his decision making. But he certainly can make those shots. He can certainly make those shots at a high rate. I do think he's a type of catch-and-shoot player. He could be one of the most dangerous catch-and-shoot players in the league just because of the quickness of the release, the diversity of the release. That no-dip catch-and-shoot three was really impressive, and the height of the release point. It's going to be almost impossible to leave him open in the corner or even above the break. It's just he has it in his head that he wants to be more, and he's really bad at doing the more. We'll see. I hope it works out for him. I really do.
Yeah, so we'll see. But again, I think the main takeaway is that we saw all of it on display, all the good and all the bad in two games. So I do think, despite the fact that him and his camp seemed to wanted to go elsewhere, I think Utah is a good spot for him because I like Will Hardy a lot. Like I think they're very deliberate with how they run offense out there, and I think that will benefit him quite a bit to play in. He could have gone to some places where it's less structure and just give him the ball and clear out, and I think this is a good situation for him.
All right, you said that we saw the yin and the yang of Ace Bailey in Summer League. What about the actual Yang? What did you see
Yang
from that?
Hansen? Boy, he was the talk of Las Vegas when we were out there. And I get it, right? When you're that big and you're dropping dimes, you're hitting threes, like you're doing all kinds of stuff. There were some real big believers in him in our chat. And our Discord and in the draft community. It apparently came out, by the way. I don't know if you saw this. There was a some form of Chinese media over the last few days that apparently the Brooklyn Nets had promised him that if he was at, what were they, at 18 or 19, one of those, if he had gone there or if he had fallen to there, they would have taken him.
Okay.
So that puts a little context behind. We were all shocked on draft night. Like 16, that seems crazy, especially for a team that has Klingon, who was pretty good as a rookie, was a really good defensive center, albeit in, sort of limited minutes for that type of player. But yeah, I'm just in on the experience. I don't know what the ultimate ceiling is. I don't know. And if we want to actually, let's combine this with Derik Queen, right? Because I watched basically all of the Blazers Pelicans game. And there was a stretch at the start of the game where Yang is out there and hits a 3 over Queen. He does the John Cena can't see me celebration, running back down the floor, makes a good defensive play, and is a huge human being, right? A lot of things I saw in Summer League were maybe not him rebounding the ball, but taking up so much space, boxing guys out, that his guards and his wings are getting rebounds and they're going the other way. On the other side of it, Derik Queen, then during a stretch at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, just handed him his ass for like 8 straight minutes. And it was a reminder of the Derik Queen we saw in some of those big games in the NCAA tournament, late in the season in the Big Ten tournament, where he gets a matchup against a guy that's like, going into the Blazers game that it's like, oh, it's Derik Queen and it's Yang, right? Like he knows that. And he had this sequence of plays where he is just putting this dude in the torture chamber. Obviously, there's a agility and speed mismatch there. And Queen hit one of those like sidestep, shimmy, off the glass, mid-range shots. And I'm just like whooping and hollering watching the game, watching these two very different players. So I really liked what I saw out of Yang. I have no idea what they're going to do with him and Klingon and how that all comes together. But certainly like probably the story at Summer League in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and like Yang is interesting. So on the one hand, I have no idea what you do with him defensively. Like I think his lateral mobility is a real concern. And like, yeah, you put him in a drop, but I'm even concerned, one thing with the drop is you've got to be able to at least explode out 1 or 2 steps to try to contest that pull-up shot. He certainly has the size. I worry whether or not he changes direction quick enough. And he can actually be a little bit quick like when he's got a head of steam, but it's that change of direction that I really worry about with him. But on the other hand, like the Chinese Jokic stuff, all right, is there a little bit of hyperbole with it? Of course. That passing is very real, like very real and very diverse too, I think, as well. He can like no look behind the back. He's got that. Bounce pass to a cutter. He's got that. He's got, for a big man, a really intriguing passing game. And obviously he's got size and physicality. There's just and that maybe the most impressive play was the one that didn't count, when he caught that one and was able to tip it in one motion. Ended up being, I think, after the foul or whatnot. He's just got so much coordination that I'm really intrigued how it's going to work out. And do I know, like, the defense is like a very legitimate concern. I have no idea whether or not I would have taken him with that 16th pick. Certainly at 35, which is when he was mocked originally.
I would have
like,
had nowhere near enough confidence. Now, I also, to be clear, I watched nowhere near as much of him as
the Blazers,
NBA front office or scout or executive or whoever would have. But yeah, I mean, super fun player. Whether he's all that good, who the heck knows?
Well, I think offensively he's got a real chance. Like offensively, and even just listening to myself. And look, I'm really going to try not to make the Jokic comparison too much. But like coming into the league, everyone was massively concerned about Jokic's defense. Now Jokic was a great, like when we talk about like anticipation and defensive metrics to try to like use as a showcase of that and a projector of that, Jokic's like block and steal rates were always astronomically good. Early on in his career, that was one of the things that a lot of the Jokic stands would look at and go like, no, I think this kid's going to actually end up being like incredible and should have been one of the top picks. And it ended up working out that way. And he is one of the most preternaturally gifted in terms of anticipation. And I don't know that Yang is there. I'm going to try real hard. We spent a couple months saying it the wrong way. I will work to correct that.
Yeah, I've learned this through some people who are covering the Blazers who have gotten to know Yang. So we got to figure out something that's not Yang Gang.
But I really just he's so fun to watch.
Super fun.
If he could have fallen, and like you mentioned, he wasn't going to, which makes sense why they took him where they did. But man, if he could have fallen, that would have been so all in on the experience. All in.
Who else do we need to get to? I mean, certainly my guy, Colin Murray Boyles, who thank God he hit a single pick and pop 3 in last night's game to give me enough propaganda to push for the next 3 months, 4 months, however long it goes. But again, very much as advertised, absolute bulldozer of a player. I think he was one of the main guys that I watched out there, and since coming home, that I think the assist numbers underrate his playmaking.
Yeah.
Like made lots of good reads in short rolls, making hit ahead passes in transition, but it's just like his hands and his hand eye are so crazy.
Yep.
Like the rebound. I had the Warriors Raptors game on last night, and it was by far
incredible. Look, 20 points, 9 rebounds,
20 and 9
4 steals,
4 steals. Yeah. Like was just all over the box score, and
that's,
even the announcers in the middle of the game are like, this guy just gets rebounds and you have no idea how it happened. And he's in the mix, right? And there are some taller guys in there, and he just goes up and he snares these balls out of nowhere. And it's like, how did he manage to do that? Then still has the presence of mind of, all right, I got to kick the ball out to the shooter and make a play like that. So honestly, that Raptors team has really gotten after it defensively in Vegas. I believe they went 4-0, now some of that was basically their NBA team at the end of last season. Not to say it's their full roster, but it's a lot of guys who have played together and have experience together. So not super surprising, but I'm glad I got one Colin Murray Boyles propaganda game before the summer ended, because that would have been rough to go through like, oh, he didn't shoot at all. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. Give me 120 and 9 game, then we're eating until the season starts.
And he's the type where like you expect him to go nuts in summer league, because when you give that consistent of effort and you have those kind of instincts, it's just like there's so much of summer league is like, well, these guys have never played together, and they look like they've never played together. And when you have a defensive playmaker and beast like that, he can just cause absolute havoc anywhere, college, pros, but especially in an unorganized, disorganized mess that is summer league. But he was definitely fun to watch.
I think the only other guy left that is probably high priority would be, we didn't talk about Fears.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of played to the scouting report again, right? Like
didn't shoot at all.
Didn't shoot well to start, certainly. Had some moments there and had a big game I think their most recent game was his best game. But that handle is really, really impressive for a kid his age, right? The side to side, the decel, and then from a complete stop, just exploding through traffic. Like his ability at that age to manipulate a defense with his handle is pretty special. And so like we talk with Sam Vecini and other draft people, he was one of the more divisive guys just because of his size and the defense and all that. But if you're a believer, it's because of that handle and his ability to use it and move the defense around, because he had some big time wow moments, even within, the few games that he played there.
And that really is why like I was bought in on him relatively high compared to others. When you can get to your spots like that, there's just so much to work with, and everything about him felt, especially when it came up, like he was, what was he, like 6'4", something like that in shoes? Something in that range. Like he was originally,
he was like 6'2.5" without shoes, if I remember.
Which was like an inch and a half, 2 inches taller than I think a lot of people were expecting, or at least that his high school measurements had him at. So when you talk about, if he's actually like 6'3", 6'4", everything else felt projectable. Not a guarantee, and he's really not where he needs to be in almost any aspect outside of the handle, but it felt projectable. And the ability to get to your spots is so rare, especially for a guy who doesn't have tunnel vision and at least has a chance to have a projectable shot. And I think there's a lot of work that's going to need to go into that shot. But if he can get that figured out, combined with his handle and his ability to get to his spots, there's just a lot to work with. And I think it's going to take some time. Like I could definitely see him having
overtime, Derik, that we're going into right now. go to allphly.com if you're on fast to check out the rest of the show.
It's a great get because I was completely in my own zone there. I was not paying attention.
I'm always watching the clock,
It's
baby.
funny because when you started on Fears, I was watching the clock, but once I started getting going, nope, that went right out the window. But no, I think he could struggle this year for sure. I could absolutely see that. In part,
And I think that's okay. Like he's so young that you're like, when you draft a guard, especially a guard that's that
especially
young,
a guard who was 17 at the start of the season.
you are
last year.
signing up for, he's going to turn the ball over 1,000 times and we're going to have to deal with it. But we believe in the upside enough to bet on him.
Yep. Ended up shooting 39% from the field and 17.6% from 3-point range overall.
Not great. Not great.
I'm encouraged. Or at least I'm intrigued.
I'm
our team,
interested.
Yeah.
But I do think, Queen, we saw a lot of oh man, this kid really just on defense, not doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
And you combine that with Fears, you combine the uncertainty with Zion and some of the other stuff going on there. Like that team, and now there's the Queen wrist injury that hopefully he's back for the start of the season and back and ready to go. A lot of volatility down there in New Orleans. I will say, we skip past Queen a little bit. Queen, I feel bad for in the sense that he now has this giant anchor around him because of that trade, and it's nothing that he asked for. It's nothing that he did. He's the same player and prospect he would have been if he went somewhere else and there wasn't a trade. But because there was this high value pick or potential high value pick, but this big first round pick trade made involving him, now it becomes, it's not just, are you good enough at your draft slot? It's, are you good enough to justify this trade? And that's not fair to him, right? Like he didn't ask for any of that. So I hope that people can at least evaluate him on his own terms and not, if you're going to direct, anger or, boy, what were they doing? Direct it at the executives who made the trade and not the kid who's a developmental big.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think fans are all that great at direct anger where it should be, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like he should be evaluated as a 13th pick. And this was a guy that there were people who thought he should be like anywhere from 6 to 10. Him falling theoretically should have less expectations put on his shoulders, and it should be an easier place to develop, especially on a team that has some depth at the bigs. But because they gave up so freaking much, and specifically something that could be so high value and did so needlessly, like we were talking about this, the day after the draft, where it's like they probably could have been put like top 10 pick protections on there and they still make that trade. But it's just like they didn't even like consider the fact that one of those two picks might end up being good. That's not Derik Queen's fault, but it is going to end up impacting his legacy and the expectations.
So I want to throw two more out there, and these are guys lower in the draft. One of whom I know you couldn't stand in the pre-draft process.
Yeah, it was good.
The other one I do think was more of a, if the Sixers traded back into the first or did some kind of multiple trade back scenario, we were like, Nique Clifford was maybe the biggest standout of all the rookies at Summer League, in part because he just played a lot, but also it's one of those prospects where if he doesn't play well, you're like 23-year-old, first round pick, like really expecting a lot more. He put up crazy numbers.
And like crazy efficient numbers.
Crazy numbers just in volume, right? 18.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5 assists. But here's the better part. 58.3% from the field, 52.9% from three. I don't think anybody's expecting him to approach that number or those numbers in general.
If you can just
from
the
the
Hall
field
of Fame right now.
But the level of polish was just off the charts. And there was one play I saw, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, where he had like a mid-post turnaround jumper, very reminiscent of like a Jason Tatum type shot. Mm-hmm. And so some of the mid-range stuff is super advanced. I don't know how much he's going to actually get to take those shots. Those do tend to be the star shots there. The Kings are such a mess that, hey, maybe they just let Nique Clifford cook. But he was super impressive and has been super impressive. The other one, which was a bit of a surprise, was Liam McNeeley came out absolutely balling at Summer League. And I know Derik was not on the McNeeley bandwagon, but it does look like there's something there after the tough year at UConn.
Okay, so at Clifford, first of all, not only do I like the fact that he shot the ball well, but he contributes in many different ways. Like he will rebound the ball. He will help distribute the ball. He will make pretty good quick decisions I think he can be a really nice, and like you mentioned, he's old enough where he should have played well here. And if he didn't, you'd be a little concerned. But I think he played about as well as you could have expected. I like him as a role player. McNeeley. So he shot the ball well. And obviously at UConn, he did not shoot the ball well. And that clouds some of from evaluation.
That hurts a little bit when that's kind of the whole thing people like you for.
Even in summer league, like he shot like 44% from 3-point range. And I think he shot like 36% inside the arc. So he's still heavily dependent on that perimeter jumper.
Yeah.
And I do buy the perimeter jumper. Like I think he had a down year last year and I think he'll be better long term. Like I think he's a shooter. I'm just not sure what he does when those shots aren't going in. Like one of the things I really struggled with him is like when he gets to the rim, it seemed like most of his layups were a hope and a prayer. Not only in terms of, the way he is attacking and going about it and the process to get there, but he just really struggled to finish through any kind of a contact. And yeah, look, in the 4 or 5 games that he played, he made shots. I'm just worried that if that shot doesn't translate or if there's any kind of inconsistency, I don't really see how he's going to impact the game outside of that. Like he's a decent passer, but it's really just, I don't think he puts any kind of pressure on
4 assists a game in summer league.
Look,
8.5 rebounds.
I literally just said
league.
he's a decent passer. In terms of creating offense, if that shot's not going in, I have my concerns. But he was much better than I was expecting, and certainly much better than he was.
Yeah, in
college.
the first game where Knueppel was really struggling, he had, I think, probably his best game.
Yeah.
So that also helps, right? You come out in the first game and you light it up, and then everyone doesn't really care about the rest of the games. So VJ Edgecombe also did a little bit of that too. No, he didn't play a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, he only played one other game.
Yeah, I actually wonder if they'll play him tonight. We still haven't technically heard. I would like to see him tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll see him until tomorrow because I'm doing other stuff. But I would like to at some point see the third VJ Edgecombe game of the summer. So yeah, I don't think there's anybody else that. No,
I think that's pretty much all I had notes on.
Yeah, because look, we could talk about some of the second year guys, but
Everybody
if you're not
knows
good
them.
second year, you're not an NBA player.
And also part of the fun of summer league is getting your first glimpse at guys who were just drafted. Like, everyone has a glimpse of Dalton Connect. You don't really need to sit here and talk about it. You all have your own opinions on it. This is great because it's a chance to get a lot of the guys that you were very excited about and that we debated quite a bit. You had a chance to see them in an environment against other NBA players, but players who have been in the league and players who will be in the league. And it's just a great summer excursion of basketball. I do think, look, summer league, the team game isn't great. It's not great. And I think you get a bad rap because of it. But just the chance that you have like all of these guys, it's a midsummer paradise of basketball that you really just don't get outside of that. So I had a lot of fun both covering it and watching it.
And I'll throw one last one out there. We do not have to discuss it. And I think we have a couple super chats before we leave too. Bronny James looked much more like an NBA player this go around. So credit to him for putting some work in the G League last year and getting his game to a point where, look, I get it's year 2, but he cleared the bar, right? And you brought up Dalton Connect. He looked better than Dalton Connect, who went much higher than him in the draft and was not accused of being a Nepo baby when he was drafted. So salute to Bronny James for his year-on-year improvement, which was pretty significant.
I hope it works out for him just because I think he was put in a really bad spot. Like on the one hand, he's put in a good spot because like his dad got him some NBA money. On the other hand, the attention put upon him because of his dad, I did feel a little bit of sympathy for him.
All right, let's get to our 2 super chats before we get out of here. Davon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beats, asked us earlier, keep saying VJ is a Westbrook, I assume that's Christian Brown, hybrid, somewhere in the middle of their strengths and weaknesses. People have gotten real, after that first game, people were really on the Russell Westbrook thing. And the Jimmy Butler, for that matter.
Yeah.
I find it really tough I want VJ to be the first VJ. I don't like trying to put him in a box. Yeah.
The one thing that really got me about the Jimmy one was that 2-foot stop, pump fake, get your guy in there, go up. You can see aspects like athletically, you can see Westbrook aspects for sure. I think he's got little bits and pieces of everything. So
I'd have to go back and look at those guys when they were just coming out of college, right? Because I only at this point think of Jimmy as a tank. Yeah. Russell Westbrook, tank. Drew Holiday, tank.
Crazy
right?
thing about Jimmy is even though he's like 6'7", he's got like the same wingspan as VJ.
Yeah.
So he's never been like an elite physical tools guy outside of being a tank. He just uses that physicality to his advantage so well.
And there's a little bit of like, he's just got dog in him. That's like the Westbrook factor too. Like those guys are complete psychos in a good way. Well, sometimes in a bad way.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to see, if VJ's going to take anything, I'd love to see you get that foul drawing.
absolutely. To put him in the Joel Embiid grifting school.
Absolutely.
And then we got one from Bill. Bill, who asks, hey guys, hope to see either of you at the blue and white scrimmage later this year. I would assume we'll be there as long as it's
we usually go there. As long as it doesn't conflict with our... It's usually on the weekend though, isn't it?
It's normally a Saturday, I believe. So I think we'll probably be there, Bill. He also says, question, do you think the Clippers pick is losing value each day?
I mean, I think it's probably losing a little bit of value. You know, because everyone just expects that they will spend money and not bottom out. And I think that's true. I think there's, two things that help it a little bit. In the fact that, like, you can't just being in LA isn't always a guarantee. We saw that during the D'Angelo Russell era of the Lakers. But also that the lottery odds and how flattened it is will give people a little bit of hope that even somebody with the 8th or 10th worst record in the league could end up having a top 4 pick. Or even in Dallas's case, where they have like a 1.8% chance at Cooper Flagg, they got it. So I think that volatility and that unpredictability will keep some of these picks. Like it used to be, if you didn't think that team was going to finish with one of the 5 worst records, you didn't really care about their pick because you weren't going to get a top 3 pick anyway. Nowadays, because you draw for 4 and because the lottery odds are flattened, I think people who at least think there's a chance that the Clippers could end up being one of the 10 worst records in the league in that season, it might keep the value just a little bit. But I think I broadly agree that I'm not holding on to this as strongly as maybe I would have been 2 years ago.
I 100% agree. I think it's one where if you see a good opportunity to get a starting caliber player or even more than that, I would strongly consider moving it. I frankly might have thought about moving it if you were to trade back into the first and get pretty high. But
right.
Story for another day. We do appreciate everyone hanging out with us on a summer Friday, as presumably you're all going to the beach or preparing for barbecues.
Getting ready to watch basketball tonight.
Yeah, man. Well, hopefully VJ plays tonight. We shall see. But thank you for hanging out with us. It's time for a roll call. How about that? Look at that, Devon with the stolen valor and that graphic hanging up there up top.
When he's out now, we just need somebody.
We gotta like put one of those, like an X through him or the circle with the red line. No, we love Devon. Devon's enjoying a day off today. Deserved it.
Which, in all honesty, we're all going to be doing a little bit.
He dealt with all our nonsense in Vegas as the man with no vices.
And look, there were definitely some nonsense going on.
You ain't lying. So thank you everybody for being here, including Bree and Derik. After, many flights and much nonsense in Vegas.
My flights were fine.
Wow, this is true.
Both ways.
This is true. Thank you to Bootzilla, to DJ, a.k.a. Mr. Sandman, to Say What, to Densley, to Eugene Ross, to Money Marr, the #1 Tre Johnson fan in all of PHLY. The Trey Hive recognizes you,
which
Money
is weird because
Marr.
I feel like we're on opposite ends on Money Marr a lot, but we're kind of with him on that.
Trey Hive is strong and it is real. Mellow 3-point, Jesse Bond, my girl Winona. We got mom's grandchildren hanging out. What's up to mom supporting us? Even when Devon doesn't support us. Thank you, Mom. We love that.
Look, with what Devon had to put up with, I think we may have to scale back the Devon jokes.
True. Colby Colbs, Dave P., Duck Holiday, who's very mad at me today because I'm not a card-carrying Ace Bailey bandwagon supporter, but that's just how it goes, my friend. Rick Morse hanging out today. The letter N, Old Dirty Yams. Davon, who had a super chat today. Bill with a super chat today. Marcus Blackstock. What's up to Marcus? What's up to each and every one of you who hung out with us today? Hope you have a good weekend. Please, on the way out, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, so you get notifications each and every time we go live, and hit the thumbs up button to say, we love you, Devon, who's not here, but also thank you to super producer Bree for holding it down, pulling up clips in the middle of the show of Trey throwing balls off of
How do you even find that? Like, hey, Tre Johnson throws ball off ass? Like, what do you do?
She's making it all happen. JS, Attila, a few more of you too. Sorry, I just didn't scroll far enough, but thank you everybody who was here this week and today. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back Monday, 3:00. Probably a mailbag Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, take care. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.